ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇನ್ನು ನೋಡು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇದು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ
ವಿಂಡೋಸ್ ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ
ಏನು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು
ವಿಂಡೋಸ್ ಇರೋದು ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ ಹೊಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇದು ಬರ್ತದೆ ಟಚ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಇದೆ ಟಚ್ ಇದು ಬರ್ತದೆ
ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬರೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ
ಏನು ಬೇಡ
ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ವಿಂಡೋ
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪಿ ಪಿ ಟಿ
ಮತ್ತೆ ವಾಪಸ್
ವಿಂಡೋಸ್ ಹಿಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಪಿ ಪಿ ಟಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಏನು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಪಿ ಪಿ ಟಿ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, still joining. How are all of you? How are
Fine,
all?
ma'am.
Fine. It's a pandemic time. Take care. Okay. Take care. Be safe. Don't go to any public places. Still joining?
Yes, ma'am.
Or all of you are joined? Yes, 90 people have joined, that's all. What about others? What about COVID-19 status in your places? Any one or two people can share? Yes, Aditi, you are here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what about COVID status?
It's high in Bangalore, ma'am. Cases are very high.
Yeah, what difference you can observe from first wave and second wave? Anything you observed?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I've not encountered many people, so.
Okay. No. Media, news, okay. So
it's
this
more
time,
dangerous than the first one. That's
yeah,
it.
mortality rate is high, isn't it? This time, compared to the first wave, mortality rate is high. First wave, the infectivity rate was more, but mortality was less, isn't it? This was infection is severe, and mortality rate is more, isn't it? All of you are enjoying in home. Akshata, you are here?
Yes, ma'am.
All of you are enjoying?
Not really, ma'am.
Not worried?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, I am also missing the live offline class actually. This is my first class actually for you people, but I couldn't link offline, isn't it? My classes are started right now. I think all of you know me. I am Dr. Gauhar Banu, Associate Professor. Yes? No response? I want all of you to be live in the class, not just log in and do some other work. All of you are here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
All of you are active? So today I am going to start the new topic, that is respiratory system. It has not yet started for you people, isn't it? So this class I am going to take only the introduction about the respiratory system and introduction about the respiratory tract. Okay. So, as you all know, respiration is a vital process, isn't it? So, it starts immediately after the birth of a child, the first breath occurs, isn't it? Okay. So, the birth starts with the respiration, and cessation of respiration is considered as a death. Yes or no? So respiration is such a vital process. So life begins with it, and when it stops, life ends with it. That means it is one of the vital system of our body. You might have heard death may be because of any reason, but at the end it is because of the failure of cardiorespiratory arrest, isn't it? So whatever might be the death, whether it is a natural or because of the accident, whatever it is. So ultimately the reason of death will be cardiorespiratory arrest, isn't it? That's why the respiratory system is one of the vital system of our body, and as a medical student you must know detail about the respiratory system. So the definition of respiration is, okay, in which we extract oxygen from the atmosphere, and oxygen is utilized by our tissues and cells, and carbon dioxide is produced because of the metabolism in the cells, and carbon dioxide is discharged back into the atmosphere. Okay, that is respiration. Okay, that is taking in of oxygen from the atmosphere and discharging carbon dioxide from the body into the atmosphere is called respiration. Is it okay? All of you are hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that is the definition of respiration. So respiration, it has a series of process. First we will inhale. Inhale means our chest will expand, okay, our lungs will expand, okay, and the oxygen enters into our lung. That is called as inhalation or inspiration. Okay, then the exchange of gases occurs, that is from the alveoli to the pulmonary capillaries. The exchange of gases occurs, okay, that is the first exchange of gas occurs in the lungs. Okay, then the transport of gases occurs in the blood, okay, in oxygen through in the hemoglobin, isn't it? So the transport of gases occurs through the blood, and the oxygen will reach to each and every cell of our body, and cells will extract the oxygen, and the metabolism is continuously occurring in our cells, isn't it? Okay. So the carbon dioxide will be continuously producing in our cells because of the metabolism. That carbon dioxide is given to the systemic circulation, and that is bring back to the lungs, and lungs will discharge it to the atmosphere. So the whole respiratory process we can divide into three stages, that is external respiration or ventilation or breathing, and one more, even the transport of gases is one of the stage. Okay, then the next is internal respiration or cellular respiration, where the exchange of gases takes place from the systemic capillaries to the cells. Okay, in external respiration the first exchange occurs, that is from the alveoli to the pulmonary capillaries. In internal respiration or cellular respiration, exchange occurs between the systemic arteries and the cells. Okay. So why this respiratory system is needed? Okay. So these gases will diffuse by a simple diffusion. Okay. This does not require any carrier or anything. Okay. They will diffuse from capillaries to the alveoli, alveoli to the cell by a simple diffusion. Okay. So this, in a unicellular organism, we don't need any specialized respiratory organs, because gases can exchange by simple diffusion. Directly the cell can take the directly the oxygen. But whereas in a multicellular organism like human being like us, okay, to supply oxygen to each and every cell, deepest part of our body, we need respiratory system. Okay, so for us, the developed respiratory system is needed in human being to procure oxygen to each and every cell of our body. Okay. Next, coming on to the component of respiratory system. So as you know, the component of respiratory systems, they are start from the nose to the alveoli in the lungs. Okay, so we have the nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea. Okay, trachea divides into the two main bronchi. Okay, and each main bronchi enters into the each lung. There are two lungs on either side, that is right and left lung, and these bronchi, each bronchi redivides to form the tracheobronchial tree. That I will be telling in the next slide. So these are the components of respiratory system. So the components of respiratory system has been divided into upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. So up to larynx, that is the nostril, nasal cavity, pharynx and larynx. It is called as upper respiratory tract. Okay, and from the trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, okay, and the alveoli, all those constitute lower respiratory tract. You might have heard of doctor telling upper respiratory tract infection, lower respiratory tract infection, isn't it? Because the upper respiratory tract infection is the commonest infection we will encounter during our life. Each and every individual, whenever there is a seasonal change, okay, this will occur. That is upper respiratory tract infection is common. If the infection goes into the lower respiratory tract, then it requires a treatment and antibiotics also for some time. Okay, so this is about the components of respiratory system. So the components of respiratory systems are divided into upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. Okay, now you must also know the partial pressure of the oxygen and carbon dioxide at different sites, because as I told you, the gases will transport by simple diffusion. That means there should be a concentration gradient is needed for the diffusion of gases, you know already. So in atmospheric air, the partial pressure of oxygen is 159 mm of Hg, whereas the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 0.23 mm of Hg. You can see in the figure. Okay, and in alveolar air, partial pressure of oxygen is 104 mm of Hg and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40 mm of Hg. Hence, the lungs can readily take the oxygen. Okay. And in arterial blood, partial pressure of oxygen is around 95 to 100 mm of Hg. You are knowing this nowadays, the oxygen saturation. Everybody is talking about oxygen saturation. It should be above 90, isn't it? You are hearing this from every way. Okay, from every person you are hearing this. Oxygen saturation should be above 95 to 100. So normal arterial blood partial pressure of oxygen is 100 mm of Hg and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40 mm of Hg. Whereas in the venous blood, partial pressure of oxygen is 40 mm of Hg and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 45 mm of Hg. Okay, and in the tissues, PO2 is 40 mm of Hg. Hence, the oxygen will move from the systemic capillary to the tissues, because arterial blood, PO2 is 100 mm of Hg, whereas in the tissues it is 40 mm of Hg, whereas PCO2 in the tissues is 45 mm of Hg, and in the arterial blood it is 40 mm of Hg. Hence the carbon dioxide will move from tissue to the capillaries. Okay, so this is about the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide at different levels. Okay, details are there in your test books. If you are interested, you can go through. But to understand the respiratory system to your level, this much is enough. It is a must-know zone. Okay. Now coming on to the passage of air. When you inhale, okay, from what all passages the air will enter. So we will inhale through nose or mouth, isn't it? Okay. So the air enters in through the mouth or sometime through the nose. Okay, then it enters into the pharynx. Pharynx again we have three parts, isn't it? Okay, what are the different parts of the pharynx? Nasopharynx, oropharynx, isn't it? So the air will pass through all the three parts of the pharynx, then it enters into the larynx. Okay. So in the vocal cord will open and the air enters into the larynx. As you already know, pharynx is a common passage for food as well as for the air. Okay, but the trachea is protected by vocal cords, okay, or glottis, epiglottis. Okay, so whenever we are deglutating or swallowing, the vocal cords will be closed, okay, and food particles will not enter into the larynx. Okay, so that's why the older people will tell while eating you must not talk, okay, you must not laugh, because there is a chance the small food particle may enter into trachea, and most of the time it happens suddenly we'll get a strong cough, isn't it? And whatever enters that will be removed back. This is the nature's protective mechanism. If minute particles enters into the larynx and trachea, we will get an cough, extensive cough, till that particle will come out of the respiratory tract. Okay, so the air enters into the larynx, then it enters into the trachea. Okay, trachea will divides into two major bronchus, that is right and left bronchus. So air enters into those things, then each bronchus divides, redivides into terminal bronchiole, and again it leads to the respiratory bronchioles. Respiratory bronchioles leads to the alveolar duct, and alveolar duct finally ends with a sac-like structure that is called as alveoli. Okay, there are around approximately 300 million alveoli which are present in both the lungs in human beings, and the surface area, if you calculate, that will be around 70 meters square. Okay, the surface area of all the 300 million alveoli. You can imagine, okay, how much surface area is there for the gas exchange, for the quick exchange of gases, and that it counts around 70 square meter, that is be around one tennis court, they will tell. Okay, that much surface area the alveoli will be having. Okay, so this is the passage of air. Air enters into the respiratory tract through nose and mouth, then it passes through the pharynx, then through the larynx, then trachea, to main bronchi, then into the bronchioles, okay, and finally to the alveoli. Okay, so this is about the passage of gas, air, into our lungs or respiratory tract. Okay, now coming on to the tracheobronchial tree. As I told you, okay, so each main bronchus divides, redivides further to finally reach into the alveoli. So the E.R. Webel, that is in 1963, he is a Spanish anatomist. He numbered the branches into 23 generation. Trachea is considered as a 0 generation, and trachea divides into 2 major bronchus, that is considered as the first generation. Okay, after that each main bronchus divides, redivides to 23 times it divides, and finally it reaches to the alveolar sac. You can see here. So trachea will divide into 2 main bronchus, and that will lead to the bronchioles. Bronchioles will lead to the terminal bronchioles. Okay. So up to here there are 16 generations. Okay. So this constitutes the conducting zone of our lungs. Okay, tracheobronchial tree. So the name itself indicates conducting zone, means it only conducts the air. No exchange of gas occurs up to 16th generation in our lungs. Okay, these branches, they only conduct the air into the deeper part of the lung. Okay, so they will occupy almost 150 ml of air. Okay, this is called as dead space. Why it is called as dead space? There is no exchange of gases occur in this passage, that is up from 0 to 16th generation, that is from trachea to the terminal bronchioles. There is no exchange of gas occurs. Okay, it only conduct the air, hence it is called as conducting zone, and this is called as dead space, and the amount of air which is present in the dead space is around 150 ml. Okay, then the terminal bronchioles further leads to respiratory bronchioles, and this respiratory bronchioles further divides, redivides to finally leads to the alveolar duct, that is from 2021-22 generation are considered as alveolar ducts, and these ducts finally leads into a sac-like structures, that is alveoli, pulmonary alveoli. Those are the functional units of our lung. Okay, so those are called as alveolar sacs, and from respiratory bronchioles to the alveolar sac, okay, that is from 17th to 23rd generation, it is called as a respiratory zone, where actually the exchange of gases occurs. Okay, even though the maximum exchange of gases occurs in the alveoli, but some amount of exchange starts from respiratory bronchioles itself. Okay, but maximum exchange occurs at the alveoli, that is under 23rd generation. Is it clear? This is very, very important for you people for exam point of view also. Okay, only a dead space is a question for you. Even the tracheobronchial tree can be asked for you as a short note. Okay, so up to 1st to 16th generation is considered as conducting zone. Here only the conduction of air occurs. It constitutes about 150 ml of air. Okay, and from 17th to 23rd generation is considered as respiratory zone. Okay, it occupies almost about 4 liters of air. Okay, and this is about the tracheobronchial tree. Any doubt here, students? Are you hearing? All of you are alert?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next is one more picture showing the tracheobronchial tree, that is the Webbel's lung model. Okay, it is again showing the same thing. So exchange part occurs, conducting part and exchange part up to 16th generation. It is a conducting zone, and 17th to 23rd generation it's a exchange zone, and here alveolar duct and alveolus has shown properly. Okay, so any of the diagram you can practice for exam point of view. Okay. So next, coming on to, as I told you, we are having two lungs, that is the right and left lung, and our lung has a covering. Okay, each lung, right lung, the right bronchus is somewhat short and straight compared to the left bronchus, they will say, and the infection, usually the infection occurs in the right lung because the right bronchus is short and it is straight. Okay, and further these lungs divides into the lobes. I think you will read this in anatomy. Okay, so that you go through once again the anatomical division, further division of each lungs. Okay, now the lung is covered with two layers that is called as pleura. Okay, and there are two layers, that is parietal pleura and visceral pleura. Parietal pleura is attached to the inner part of our chest. Okay, and visceral pleura is with approximate with the outer surface of our lungs. Okay, and in between these two layers there is a cavity that is called as pleural cavity. Okay, and normally around 10 to 20 ml of fluid is present in this pleural cavity. Okay, so this pleura and pleural cavity and fluid in it help in a easy movement of the lungs, because during inflation lung will expand, during expiration lungs will shrink. Okay, so there is a continuous expansion and shrinkage of lung occurs. Okay, so for the smoother motion, this pleural cavity and fluid in it will help in smooth motion of our lungs. Okay, expansion and shrinkage of our lungs, this will help. And abnormalities of pleural cavity occur if there is a accumulation of more fluid in this cavity, that leads to a clinical condition called pleural effusion. That is again a pathological condition. It should be around 10 to 20 ml normally, then only it is normal and our lungs will work normally. Okay, if more amount of air enters into the pleural cavity, if there is some damage occurs, air enters into this pleural cavity, then it is called as pneumothorax. Okay, again it is again one of the clinical condition and pathological condition. Okay, if you are interested you can go through once what is pleural effusion and what is pneumothorax. Okay, so right now you remember our lungs are covered by two layers of pleura, that is parietal pleura and visceral pleura, and the space between these two layers is called as pleural cavity, and around 10 to 20 ml of fluid is present in this pleural cavity, and this help in easy movement of our lungs. Okay. Next, coming on to the histology. Okay, so histological features of our alveoli. Okay, so if you see under microscope alveoli, what are the different types of cells we will find? So alveoli will have the 95% type 1 cells, or they are also called as pneumocytes. Okay, type 1 cells, 95% of cells are type 1 cells of alveolar wall. Okay, and there are 5% type 2 cells. Okay, these type 2 cells, they help in secretion of surfactant. You must hear of surfactant. Okay, I will tell you in my future classes, but right now you remember type 1 cells of our alveoli, there are maximum, that is 95%, they help in the gas exchange, and type 2 cells are around 5%, they help in the secretion of surfactant. Okay, and pulmonary alveolar, we are also having in the lungs pulmonary alveolar macrophages, that is they engulf the foreign particles whatever we will inhale. Okay, so they are protective in lungs, and there are even the lymphocytes, plasma cells, Apute cells, amino precursor uptake, decarboxylate cells, they will secrete many biological active substances like vasoactive peptides, that is VIP and etc. And mast cell, this will also secretes help in the allergic reaction. Okay, so histamine and all will be secreted by mast cell, and this will help in the allergic reaction. So these are the cells we will see in histological feature of our lungs. So you must remember here there are 95% are type 1 cells are pneumocytes and 5% are type 2 cells. Okay. Now, coming on to the alveolar capillary membrane or respiratory membrane. Okay, this is very, very important. Through this, the oxygen will diffuse from alveoli to the pulmonary capillaries. Okay, this is exceedingly thin. That is, its thickness is around 0.2 to 0.5 micron. Okay, it must be, it should be thin for the easy exchange of gases. If it becomes thick, okay, it interferes with the quick exchange of gases. Hence, it is exceedingly thick. Normally, it is around 0.2 to 0.5 micron, but it has so many layers. Okay, our oxygen or carbon dioxide has to pass all these layers to enter into the alveoli or into the pulmonary capillaries. So starting from the alveoli, it should pass through the alveolar surfactant. So surfactant it form on a layer on the inner aspect of our alveoli. So it should pass through alveolar surfactant, alveolar epithelial cell, basement membrane of alveolar epithelium, then interstitial fluid, then basement membrane of capillary endothelium, then capillary endothelial cells, then plasma, then it enters into the red cell membrane, then it enters into RBC, okay, intraerythrocyte fluid, and it has to reach the hemoglobin molecule. Okay, so at least from alveoli to the blood, it should pass through 6 layers. Okay, so into the hemoglobin, it constitute around 10 components it should pass through, isn't it? From alveoli to the blood, to enter into the pulmonary capillaries, it should pass through at least the 6 layer, that is first 6 layer, that is alveolar surfactant, alveolar epithelial cell, basement membrane of alveolar epithelium, interstitial fluid, basement membrane of capillary endothelium, and capillary endothelial cells. 6 layers it has to enter into the blood from the alveoli. Okay, so this is called as alveolo-capillary membrane and the lining epithelium. So when we start from the trachea, okay, starting from trachea to the alveoli, the epithelium will be columnar. Starting it will be columnar, then it will be cuboidal, then it becomes the squamous in the alveoli. So as we come from trachea to the alveoli, what change you observed? Okay, anyone can tell me what change you observed? I will show that slide. Okay. So as we come from trachea to alveoli, what changes has occurred? Can anybody tells me? Grossly, what change you have find out? In trachea, you can see the cartilage, isn't it? So as you come down, the cartilage will go on decreasing. Okay, yes or no? And size. See the diameter of the trachea and see the diameter of the main bronchus. See the diameter of the respiratory bronchioles. So what happens to the diameter? So as we come from trachea to the alveoli, diameter goes on decreasing, isn't it? And the cartilage goes on decreasing. Okay, and smooth muscles goes on on increasing. Smooth muscles will be very less in the trachea, but there are maximum in the alveoli. So smooth muscles will be more in the alveoli. And if we see the histological feature, the epithelium will be columnar epithelium in the trachea, and when we come to the alveoli, it becomes squamous. Columnar will change to the cubital and squamous, and epithelium will have a cilia, ciliated epithelium we will be having, and the movement of cilia will be towards the pharynx. So whenever some foreign particle enters into the respiratory tract, these cilia, okay, will try to push it to the pharynx. Okay, so once it comes to the pharynx, it will be swallowed. Okay, so the cilia also goes on decreasing when we come from trachea to the alveoli. So these are some of the changes which occurs in tracheobronchial tree. Okay, that is diameter goes on decreasing, cartilage goes on decreasing. Okay, and columnar epithelium will become cuboidal and squamous. Cilia goes on decreasing. Okay, but only thing which increases smooth muscles. Smooth muscles will be very less in the trachea and bronchi and bronchioles, but it is maximum in the alveoli. Okay. So now coming on to the this is about the alveolo-capillary membrane. This is also very, very important for you people. You go through in your whatever books you are having, try to draw the diagram, practice the diagram. Okay, this is also a most commonly asked short note for you. That is alveolo-capillary membrane, or it is also called as respiratory membrane. Okay. Next, coming on to the nerve supply of the lungs. So, lungs are supplied by autonomic nervous system. So, autonomic nervous system has two branches, that is parasympathetic and sympathetic. Parasympathetic comes from the vagus nerve. You can see in the diagram. Okay, parasympathetic comes from the vagus nerve, and parasympathetic stimulation leads to bronchoconstriction. Okay, and increase in the secretion, mucus secretion. Okay, and sympathetic stimulation. Sympathetic stimulation, you can see here the phrenic nerve will supply to the diaphragm. Okay, so phrenic nerve comes from C3, C4, C5. It is shown in the diagram, and the intercostal nerves, they have come from T1. Okay, thoracic vertebrae to T11 thoracic vertebrae. So these thoracic nerve supplies to the lung, and they carry the sympathetic nerve supply to the lungs, and sympathetic stimulation causes bronchodilation. Okay, at least you remember this much about the nerve supply. So our lungs are supplied by autonomic nervous system. Parasympathetic stimulation comes from vagus, and it leads to bronchoconstriction, and sympathetic supply comes from the sympathetic nerves, and stimulation of sympathetic nerves leads to bronchodilation. Is it clear? Yes. Now coming on to the
Yes, ma'am.
coming on to the functions of respiratory system. Okay. So as you know, the primary function of respiratory system is, what is the primary function? Yes. Anyone? What's the primary function of our lungs?
Gas exchange, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So the prime function of our lungs is exchange of gases, that is the extracting oxygen from the atmosphere and discharging carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. That is the prime function of our lungs. Apart from this primary function, the lungs have several other functions. Okay, like lung defense mechanism. So as we take air, the nose itself will have, our nose has hairs, isn't it? And whatever the foreign particles which are present in the air will be trapped in the nose itself, isn't it? And it gives 50% resistance to the air, inspired air. Our nose itself will give 50% resistance, and we may inhale cool air, warm air depending upon the atmospheric condition. But our respiratory tract tries to bring it to the body temperature till the air reaches to the alveoli. Okay, so the bigger particles around 10 micron will be trapped in our nose itself. Okay, and it humidifies the air. Okay, cool and warm the inspired air. That is, if it is warm, it cools. If it is cool, it warms. Okay, and immunoglobulin A in the mucus prevents local infections. Okay, and prevents foreign body from reaching the alveoli. Okay, so these are some of the lung defensive mechanism. And even as I told you, cilia, so our lungs will have a ciliated epithelium. Cilia will also help in movement of foreign particle which enters into the trachea and bronchi. These cilia try to push it to the pharynx because the ciliary movement is towards the pharynx, and if it reaches the pharynx, the substance will be swallowed and excreted. Okay, so cartilaginous syndrome. So what it is, you find out. Okay, this is a homework for you people. Okay, at least you open the books and find out what do you mean by cartilaginous syndrome. I am going to ask this in the next class. How many of you have read about this? Okay, and pulmonary alveolar macrophages. Okay, so this also will give the protective or defense mechanism. These macrophages phagocytize whatever, okay, foreign particles. If they are in a minute size, if they are very less than 2 micron, there is a chance that they may enter into the alveoli. There also there are protective mechanism like alveolar macrophages. They will engulf those foreign particles. So lung has a defensive mechanism also. Okay, then the functions of pulmonary circulation. So pulmonary circulation, it acts as a reservoir of left ventricle. Okay, so it has a huge surface area. Pulmonary circulation, okay, at any time it accommodates, okay, around 3 liters of blood. Okay, so it acts as a reservoir of left ventricle, and pulmonary circulation also act as a filter. Okay, if anything, okay, any toxins enter is there which has entered into the circulation, the pulmonary circulation removes the toxins. Okay, and any small emboli or whatever foreign particles enters, it acts as a filter. And fluid exchange and drug absorption. So this, as there is a fast exchange occurs, this we can use for the drug absorption fast. So most of the anesthetics has given by this route, isn't it? Inhalation route, because they will be fast. General anesthesia is given through the inhalation route, isn't it? Okay, so this can be utilized. And fluid exchange. Okay, and always our alveoli has to be kept dry. Okay, so that work has done by pulmonary circulation. And metabolic functions of our lungs, as I told, it produces and secretes surfactant. It synthesizes and secretes surfactants. It also secretes prostaglandins. These are the metabolic functions of our lung. And angiotensin converting enzyme is present in the lungs, which converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, isn't it? So these are some of the endocrine and metabolic functions of our lung, other than our major function of lung, that is gas exchange. Okay, next. So these are the important functions of our lungs all of you go through whatever test book you are having, okay, and make your own notes. Non-respiratory functions of the lung is also a question which is asked many times, okay. That is respiratory function, everybody knows, okay. So non-respiratory function of a lung can be asked you as a short note. So prepare for this, read well, okay. So thank you, stay safe. If you have any doubt, you can, I have put my email ID in my first slide. You can mail me, or if you want, I can give you my phone number through WhatsApp also. You can send me your doubts, okay. My phone number is 9844208851, okay. So my phone number is 9844208851. Okay, this is my phone number. If you are having any doubt, you can ask me, okay. So any doubt here right now, anything you want to ask, anybody? Is it clear to you? I have not written anything in the slides. Slides are almost very minimum thing I have written. Okay, just I explained. Any problem here? Any doubt here? Any one
No,
of you
ma'am.
can? No, no. Okay. So shall we end here? So Friday 9 to 10 is again my second class. Okay, read about whatever I have covered. Okay, and go through if possible the next, that is mechanics of breathing, in the next class. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.